He always thought she was just a maid until the night she took a bullet meant for him. As she lay bleeding in his arms, the Mafia boss made a decision that would change everything, and nobody saw it coming. Thank you for sticking around with me, and welcome back, my wonderful story family. If you're already hooked in for today's story and ready to enjoy it, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Because tomorrow, I will be giving you another story just as interesting as this one. And you don't want to miss it. Now, back to the story. The rainstorm made the city look like it was melting. Lights bleeding into puddles, sirens echoing off skyscrapers, and thunder grumbling like the heavens were fed up with New York's nonsense. Inside Rinaldi's house of trattoria, however, the weather didn't matter. Nothing ever did except Giovanni Rinaldi's rules. Tonight, Giovanni stood at the head of the long wooden table, his broad shoulders stiff beneath a tailored black coat, his jaw clenched so tight a dentist might have fainted. His lieutenants sat scattered around the room, pretending not to notice how close he was to snapping. The boss had been irritated all day. His deliveries were late. His accountant had miscounted cash. Someone in Queens had tried opening a rival pizza shop with Rinaldi in the name, which Giovanni considered both disrespectful and an act of war. But the real source of his irritation? Maria. Not because she'd done anything wrong, but because she refused to do anything he wanted. Again. Giovanni glared through the restaurant window where she swept the front entryway as if she were conducting a symphony with that broom. In the rain. Like a lunatic. Like the weather was a coworker she was determined to annoy. He muttered under his breath, "That woman's gonna give me a stroke." Maria, unaware she was being cursed at by a man with enough enemies to have his own obituary drafted already, hummed a tune while sweeping water from one puddle into another puddle, which scientifically achieved nothing. Her brown skin glowed under the neon sign's flicker, and her hair, wrapped in a simple scarf, was soaked through. Her coat looked thin enough to qualify as a suggestion rather than clothing. But she was smiling. Maria always smiled. Even when she was broke, exhausted, or dodging flying plates when Giovanni was in one of his moods. One of the soldiers sitting near Giovanni whispered, "Boss, if it bothers you, why don't you just bring her inside?" "Because she won't listen," Giovanni snapped. "She never listens. I could tell her the sky is blue and she'd say, 'Actually, it's more of a philosophical concept.' Boss, it is blue." "Shut up." The men went back to their glasses of wine. Outside, Maria leaned on her broom, shook water from her sleeve and sighed. "One day, Lord, you gotta get me out of this weather. Or at least get me a stronger roof for my cot." Biscuit's starting to think he's amphibious. The cat meowed from the dry spot beneath the awning, staring at her with the judgment of an ancient pharaoh. Maria ignored him. Inside, Giovanni rubbed his forehead, pacing. "She's gonna get sick. And then she'll show up coughing, and then I'll catch it, and I don't have time for pneumonia." One of his men raised a brow. "You're yelling about her again." "I'm not yelling." "You're absolutely yelling." Giovanni stabbed a finger in the man's direction. "I don't yell." The man nodded quickly. "Of course not, boss. You're whispering aggressively." Giovanni turned away, muttering curses in Italian. That was when the restaurant's door swung open. Maria stepped in, dripping like she had bathed in the Atlantic Ocean. "Boss, the front is clean. I swept up the storm for you." "You can't sweep a storm," Giovanni grumbled. "Then you tell that to the sky because it listened." One of the men snorted. Giovanni shot him a death glare. Maria moved past the table, snagging a stack of plates to wash. "You want coffee before the boys eat?" "No," Giovanni said. Maria nodded. "So yes." "I said no." "I heard you. That's why I'm making it." She walked off toward the kitchen without waiting for a response. Giovanni's left eye twitched. "I hate her." His men exchanged looks. They'd heard him say that 100 times. They knew it meant the opposite. But none were brave enough to say so. A moment later, Maria came back with a steaming mug of espresso. She placed it in front of him gently, almost quietly. Her voice softened. "You looked tired." He swallowed hard, not expecting empathy. "I'm fine." "You're not," she said, patting his shoulder. Giovanni froze like he'd been touched with holy water. And Maria walked off again, casual as ever, as if she hadn't committed the single most dangerous act in the entire city. Placing her hand on Giovanni Rinaldi and living. The rain intensified outside, thunder rumbling so hard it rattled the windows. One of the lieutenants glanced at the front door. "Boss, we got movement across the street." Giovanni's head snapped up. Maria peeked out from the kitchen, brow furrowed. "Those men have been standing there since I started sweeping. They're giving me bad energy." "Everything gives you bad energy," Giovanni muttered. "Your temper gives me the worst." Several men coughed to hide laughter. "Maria," Giovanni warned. She raised her hands in surrender. "Just saying." But when the door opened and Giovanni stepped outside with his men, Maria's instincts prickled. Her muscles tensed. The broom in her hand felt suddenly necessary. In the distance, a shadow shifted. Something metallic gleamed. Her breath hitched. No, not tonight. Across the wet street, a man lifted an arm. A gun. Silenced. Professional. Maria didn't think. She didn't plan. She ran. Through the rain. Through the fear. Through the instinct that said she was about to make the stupidest and bravest decision of her life. Giovanni turned at her approaching footsteps. "What the hell are you?" Then the gunshot cracked. Maria leapt. Everything changed. The storm. The street. The power. The fear. And Giovanni Rinaldi, the coldest man in New York, felt something he hadn't felt in decades. Panic. As Maria collapsed into his arms, he screamed her name so loud it drowned the thunder. "If you can't stand cowards who shoot from the shadows," he shouted at his men, "don't you dare keep quiet. And if anyone out there thinks Maria deserved this, hit subscribe. Only snakes and traitors wouldn't." He lifted her, trembling. And the city watched a legend break. The hospital lights were too bright enough to expose every crack in Giovanni Rinaldi's armor. He stormed through the sliding doors like a hurricane in human form, Maria in his arms, her blood soaking through his coat. Rainwater dripped onto the tile floor with every step he took, leaving a trail that nurses would later swear looked like the signature of death himself. "Help her!" Giovanni roared, voice raw enough to scratch tile. The nearest nurse dropped her clipboard. Sir, you can't just. Do I look like a man you tell can't?" Giovanni thundered. A doctor rushed over, hands lifted cautiously. "Put her on the gurney. We'll take her right now." Giovanni didn't move. He held Maria tighter. His jaw was trembling. His breath was sharp and uneven. He looked less like a mafia king and more like a man watching his world crumble. Finally, he lowered her gently onto the gurney. Like she was glass, like she was something precious. Maria's eyes fluttered open just enough to see the panic on his face. "I'm okay," she whispered. "You're not okay," he said, voice cracking. "You got shot protecting me." Her lips twitched into the faintest, humor-drenched smirk. "Boss, you act like that's the first time somebody aimed at you today." A nurse gasped. Giovanni stared at her. "You think now is the time for jokes?" "If I don't joke," she mumbled, "I'll cry, and my eyeliner's already fighting for its life." Her head fell sideways, and Giovanni's soul nearly went with her. "Hey," he shouted at the doctor, grabbing his coat. "If she dies." The doctor cut him off firmly. "Let us work, Mr. Rinaldi. If you want her alive, you need to let go." Those words hit harder than the gunshot. Giovanni stepped back. Just one step. It took more strength than any fight he'd ever been in. Maria was wheeled away, oxygen mask pressed to her face, machines beeping in a frantic rhythm. Giovanni watched until the doors slammed shut, leaving him alone in a silent hallway that suddenly felt too small, too bright, too real. Thunder rolled distantly outside the hospital. Inside him something broke. His men rushed in moments later, drenched and trembling. "Boss, we handled the shooters. They didn't survive the return fire." One wiped blood from his cheek. But the one in the alley had something on him. Giovanni barely looked up. What? A photo. He handed it over carefully. Giovanni took it, and froze. It was Maria. A younger Maria. Maybe 11. Standing beside a tall black man with a hard stare and a scar down his neck. On the back of the photo, a name was scribbled in red marker. Johnsson. Giovanni felt the room tilt. His pulse pounded. His throat tightened. No, he whispered. Not him. His men looked at each other, confused. Boss. You know the guy. Giovanni didn't answer. He couldn't. Because the truth was a nightmare he'd buried years ago. A ghost with a last name that still made him grind his teeth in his sleep. Johnson. The man who stole from him. The man who betrayed him. The man who framed him. The man who almost got him killed. But the photo changed everything. Because Maria wasn't just some maid he rescued, employed, or tolerated. She was connected to the only enemy he'd ever truly feared. His voice was barely audible. She said her name was Maria Johnson. His men stiffened. That Johnson? One whispered. Yes. Giovanni's face hardened like stone. And that means the attack tonight wasn't random. Another soldier stepped forward hesitantly. Boss, what if she knew? Giovanni grabbed him by the throat so fast the man didn't even gasp, just flailed like a fish yanked out of water. Maria, Giovanni growled, squeezing harder, has never known anything except loyalty and survival. If anyone in this city even suggests she's a traitor again, I'll make sure their families forget their last name. He shoved the man back. The others stepped away, wide-eyed. Giovanni Rinaldi. Defending a maid. A maid with ties to his worst enemy? The world really was ending. He dragged a shaky hand over his face. Find out who sent those shooters. And find out if Johnson is alive. The men nodded and rushed out. Giovanni stayed. Alone. Staring at the door Maria disappeared behind. Hours passed like slow torture. Giovanni paced the waiting room until his footprints practically carved grooves into the tile. Every nurse avoided him. Every cough from another patient made him flinch. The vending machine refused to take his dollar, and he almost shot it, actually reached for his gun, before remembering hospital rules. He sank into a chair, elbows on his knees, hands pressed to his face. What were you doing, Maria? He whispered. Why would you take a bullet for me? He knew why, of course. Because she was good. A type of good that the world didn't produce often anymore. A type of good he didn't deserve. He leaned back, staring at the ceiling, trying not to think about the last time he cared for someone. It had ended in fire, betrayal, and a scar he still felt every morning when he looked in the mirror. Caring made him weak. Weakness got people killed. But Maria didn't care about any of that. She treated him like a man, not a monster. She scolded him, fed him, nagged him, reminded him to drink water, called him dramatic at least once a week. She made him feel human. And somewhere in that humanness, he'd forgotten to keep his guard up. A nurse approached him timidly. Mr. Rinaldi. He stood so fast she flinched. She's stable, the nurse said. Giovanni's knees almost buckled. She's alive. Yes. She lost a lot of blood, but the bullet missed anything fatal. She's in recovery. He inhaled. Shaky, heavy, relieved. When can I see her? Soon. We just need to finish checking her vitals. Giovanni nodded slowly. Thank you. The nurse hurried away before he could accidentally intimidate her further. Giovanni sank back into the chair, exhaling for the first time since Maria hit the pavement. But the relief was short-lived. Because someone across the waiting room was watching him. A man in a black hoodie. Sitting too still. Too calm. Too observant. Giovanni's instincts sharpened like knives. He knew that posture. He knew that stare. He knew that face. When the man lowered his hood, Giovanni's blood ran cold. It was him. Johnson. The father of the woman who took a bullet for him. The man who nearly destroyed him. The man he had sworn to kill. Johnson smirked. Long time no see. Giovanni. And just like that, the real war began. The moment Giovanni recognized the man sitting in the waiting room, the air turned razor-sharp. Johnson didn't move, didn't blink, didn't flinch. He just smiled, a slow, poisonous smile that Giovanni had spent years trying to forget. Giovanni's fists clenched before his brain could react. Every muscle in his body tensed, ready to lunge, to strike, to finish a war that had never truly ended. But the hospital security guard's voice cut through the silence. "Sir, you need to sit down." Giovanni didn't even look at the guard. His eyes stayed locked on the man across the room. "Leave," Giovanni said quietly. The guard hesitated. "Sir, you can't." "I said leave," Giovanni repeated, sharper this time, the kind of sharp that made a grown man feel his mortality. The guard swallowed hard and backed away, disappearing down the hall. Slowly, Johnson rose from the plastic chair. His black hoodie hung off him like a shadow, his posture relaxed. Too relaxed, like he didn't fear the monster standing in front of him. "Still dramatic as ever," Johnson said, voice smooth as whiskey and twice as dangerous. "I didn't expect you to cry over a maid, though. That part was new." The words cut deeper than intended. Giovanni stepped forward. "Don't," he growled, "talk about her." Johnson's eyebrows lifted. "Hit a nerve, did I?" "I'm warning you." "Oh, I know," Johnson replied lightly. "You're always warning people. Threatening them. Breaking their fingers. Shooting their kneecaps. But here you are, melting down in a hospital waiting room over a woman who scrubs your floors." Giovanni's jaw twitched. "It's funny," Johnson added. "In all the years I've known you, I never imagined something as small as love would bring you to your knees." Giovanni froze. Love. That wasn't a word spoken in his world. Not without consequences. Not without blood. "I don't love her," Giovanni snapped. Johnson's smirk widened. "Sure. Keep telling yourself that." Giovanni moved so fast the air practically cracked. His hand clamped around Johnson's throat, slamming him against the wall hard enough to shake the bulletin board behind him. People gasped. A nurse screamed. But Johnson... He laughed. Actually laughed. "Ah, there he is," Johnson choked out. "The real Giovanni." "Give me one reason," Giovanni snarled, tightening his grip. "One reason I shouldn't snap your neck right now." Johnson's eyes glinted with something dangerous. "Because if you kill me, she'll never know the truth." Giovanni went still. "What truth?" he demanded. Johnson coughed, rubbing his throat when Giovanni finally let go. "You really don't know," Johnson said softly. "Do you?" "Know what?" Giovanni growled. Johnson lowered his gaze for the first time. Not out of fear, but something else. Something that made Giovanni's stomach twist. "She doesn't know who I am." Giovanni paused. "Explain." Johnson swallowed hard. "She doesn't know I'm her father," he admitted. For a moment, the world stopped spinning. Giovanni stared at him, blank, stunned, disbelieving. "You're lying." "Why would I lie about that?" Johnson replied. "It's the one thing in my life I actually got right." Giovanni shook his head slowly. "Maria said her father left when she was young. She said he died." Johnson's jaw tightened. Her mother told her that so she wouldn't grow up with a criminal for a father. A bitter silence passed between them. Giovanni exhaled slowly, fury simmering beneath the surface. "You abandoned her." "No," Johnson said quietly. "I protected her. The same way you're trying to protect her now." Giovanni stiffened. "You and I both know," Johnson continued. "Our world doesn't let daughters stay safe. Men like us. We destroy everything we touch. Even the people we love." Giovanni felt something cold twist inside his chest. He wanted to deny it, he wanted to argue, he wanted to punch the man's teeth out. But deep down, he understood. Too well. "Let me see her," Johnson said softly. "Absolutely not. I'm her father. You're a threat. And you're not." Johnson shot back. Giovanni took a step forward, and Johnson lifted his chin. "She took a bullet for you," Johnson said. Let me see her. Just once. No, Giovanni said, voice like steel. You don't get to walk back into her life just because she's bleeding. Johnson's face tightened. You disappeared, Giovanni continued. Now disappear again. Johnson's eyes darkened. Dangerously. This isn't over, Rinaldi, he whispered. Whether you like it or not. Maria is my blood. Giovanni stepped close enough that their foreheads nearly touched. And whether you like it or not, he growled. She's under my protection now. Touch her. Or even step near that door. And I'll bury you where no one will ever find you. Johnson didn't move. Didn't breathe. Then he smiled faintly. Just like old times, he murmured. You pretending you're the hero. I don't pretend, Giovanni said. I act. Johnson slipped his hood back up. Be careful, Giovanni. The last woman who trusted you ended up dead. Giovanni froze. That was the line. The one you don't cross. The one that awakened the devil in him. When Giovanni reached for his gun, Johnson vanished into the stairwell like a shadow melting into darkness. And for the first time in years, Giovanni felt fear. Not for himself, but for the woman fighting for her life behind the ICU doors. Fight, Maria. Please. Fight. He wasn't ready to lose her. Not now. Not after everything. Not when he finally understood why her name shook him so violently. Not when he finally realized. He didn't just care for her. He needed her. The beeping of the heart monitor was deafening in the otherwise silent ICU. Every pulse made Giovanni flinch, every flatline a dagger through his chest. He didn't sit. He couldn't. Sitting meant waiting. Waiting meant losing control. And losing control wasn't an option. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed, eyes locked on the frosted glass doors behind which Maria lay. Her hand was wrapped in bandages, her face pale, but alive. Alive. And that alone made the tension in his shoulders taut enough to snap. The door hissed open, and a young nurse stepped out, clipboard in hand. Sir, she began cautiously, she's stable for now. But... Her eyes flicked toward the ICU. It was a close call. Giovanni didn't answer. He only nodded once, curtly, and the nurse scurried away. He wasn't alone for long. A shadow fell across the corridor. Long and deliberate. Giovanni's hand hovered near the gun at his hip, every nerve screaming. You're obsessed, a voice said. Giovanni didn't flinch. He didn't need to. He knew that voice. He could recognize the scent of trouble, the cold precision of a man who had walked through fire and left scorched footprints behind him. Johnson. Why are you here? Giovanni demanded, voice low, venomous. I told you. I need to see her, Johnson replied. Calm. Smooth. Dangerous. Not a chance. Giovanni's jaw clenched. She's in no shape to see a ghost from her past. Johnson tilted his head, a smirk twisting his features. Ghost. Yes, Giovanni hissed. Ghost. That's what you are to her. And ghosts get buried. Johnson stepped closer, slow, deliberate. Every step was a warning. You think I don't know what you are, Giovanni? You think I don't see the fire behind those eyes? You're terrified. Terrified of me. Terrified for her. And maybe, just maybe, terrified of yourself. Giovanni's fingers twitched near the gun. Don't test me. Test you. Johnson laughed softly, a sound that made blood chill. I'm not testing you. I'm reminding you that even monsters bleed when someone they care about is in danger. Giovanni's chest tightened. He wanted to shout. He wanted to strike. He wanted to drag Johnson into the floor tiles and make him pay for every second of agony he had brought into Maria's life. But he didn't. He couldn't. Because deep down, he knew Johnson was right. He did care. He needed her. More than he was willing to admit. The corridor grew colder. Shadows shifted. Time slowed. Leave, Giovanni finally said, voice low but carrying the weight of steel. Johnson nodded slowly, like he understood, like he respected the line that had been drawn, at least for now. "I'll go," he said. "But remember this, Rinaldi. She's mine in ways you can't touch. You can guard her body, her life, but not her blood. Not her bloodline." With that, he slipped back into the stairwell, fading into darkness like smoke curling into the air. Giovanni exhaled, dragging his hand down his face. He had survived gunfights, betrayals, murders, but nothing in his life had ever shaken him like the idea of losing Maria. And he couldn't let that happen. Not now. Not ever. Because for the first time, he realized he wasn't just a protector. He was a man who would go to hell and back for her. And if Johnson or anyone else thought otherwise, they were gravely mistaken. The ICU lights flickered faintly as Giovanni paced the corridor, each step a measured explosion of anxiety and rage. Maria's fragile breathing behind the glass was a cruel reminder that time wasn't on his side. He paused. His phone buzzed. A text. Unknown number. "You think you're alone? Watch your back. J." Giovanni crumpled the phone in his hand, knuckles white. Johnson was already playing a game he hadn't even realized existed. He ran a hand through his hair, tension cracking the air around him. He couldn't just sit here. He had to move. Protect. Hunt. Strike. A sharp voice interrupted his thoughts. "Sir, you can't." It was the security again, but Giovanni didn't hear him. He only saw the ICU doors. Maria was fighting. Alive. And he had a promise to keep. If you care about her as much as you claim, you do everything to survive for her sake, Giovanni muttered under his breath, a mantra as much as a warning to himself. He walked to the ICU window, peering through. Her hand twitched. She was awake. Not fully conscious, but enough to send shivers down his spine. And then, her eyes fluttered open. Giovanni froze. She blinked, weak but alive, and her gaze searched the room until it landed on him. Relief, fear, and something unspoken danced in those eyes. "Maria," he whispered, voice rough. "Stay with me. Please." Her lips quivered. "Giovanni." "Yes. I'm here. I won't leave." A quiet pause, then she coughed. He grabbed a nearby chair, leaning close. "You're stronger than you know. Fight for me, Maria. Fight." Somewhere deep in his chest, a fire ignited. The danger outside, Johnson's threats, the underworld waiting to pull them under. It didn't matter. Right now, all that mattered was that she lived. Want to see what happens next? Don't forget to like and subscribe, because the story is only getting darker. A nurse appeared at the doorway. She should rest. No visitors. Giovanni's eyes narrowed. She can rest, but I'm staying. No one is touching her. The nurse hesitated, then nodded, realizing arguing would be pointless. Giovanni turned back to the ICU. Maria's eyes closed again, her faint breaths still steady. He whispered to the empty room. "I'll protect you no matter what. Even if the whole world turns against us. I will find a way." Outside, shadows moved. Danger was close. Johnson's words echoed in his mind. "She's mine in ways you can't touch." Giovanni's hands clenched into fists. "Then let him try," he muttered. "Let him try." And in that moment, he made a silent vow. No one would harm her. Not Johnson. Not the underworld. Not fate itself. If you want to see the next shocking twist, hit that bell icon and turn on notifications. You won't believe what's about to happen next. The hallway went quiet. But Giovanni knew better. The storm was coming. And when it hit, nothing would ever be the same. Night had fallen over Ravello City, but the darkness wasn't just in the sky. It seeped into the streets, into the alleys, into the bones of the city itself. Giovanni stood by the hospital's emergency exit, eyes scanning every shadow. He didn't sleep. He didn't eat. He waited. And he knew Johnson was out there. A faint sound, footsteps, deliberate, confident, echoed behind him. Giovanni spun, gun drawn. "Johnson." "Always dramatic," Johnson said, leaning against the brick wall. His hood was back up, shadowing half his face. "You can't hide forever, Rinaldi." Giovanni's jaw tightened. You're insane if you think I'll let you anywhere near her. Johnson smiled, a dangerous curve of lips that didn't reach his eyes. Insane. Maybe. But I'm her father. And she deserves to know the truth. Giovanni's finger itched on the trigger. Truth. You abandoned her. You left. You let her mother lie to her. That's not the truth. That's cowardice. Protecting her is not cowardice, Johnson replied, voice soft but cutting like glass. It's what kept her alive. Giovanni's ears rang. Alive. She is alive. But at what cost? How many threats, how many enemies, how many bullets had she already faced because of men like them? You're playing a dangerous game, Giovanni warned. Step closer and I'll kill me. Johnson finished, shrugging. Go ahead. But the moment you do, you'll never forgive yourself. And neither will she. Giovanni froze. Johnson's words hit deeper than any gunshot. For a fleeting moment, all the violence, all the power, all the rage, the underworld he controlled, didn't matter. Only she did. You think you can just waltz back into her life? Giovanni growled. After all these years? I don't think, Johnson said. I know. And you. You're not the only one who wants to protect her. But there's a line, Giovanni. Don't cross it. The tension was suffocating. A single misstep could ignite a war right here in the streets, right outside her hospital room. Giovanni exhaled slowly, fighting the surge of emotion threatening to betray him. Leave. No. Or I swear, I'll bury you where no one will ever find you. Johnson laughed quietly. Old habits die hard. But mark my words. She will know me. One way or another. And just like that, he melted into the shadows. Giovanni remained, heart pounding, hands shaking slightly from adrenaline and fear. Fear not for himself, but for her. Maria. Stay alive, he whispered. Stay alive for me, for all of us. A notification buzzed on his phone, an alert from his channel. Your viewers are waiting for the next chapter. Giovanni smirked bitterly. If only they knew. Don't forget to like, comment, and hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications, because the next twist will blow your mind, and you don't want to miss a second of this story. He pocketed the phone, eyes returning to the darkened street. Shadows lingered, danger lingered, and the storm wasn't over. But one thing was certain. Giovanni would fight. He would fight anyone. Anyone. Who dared touch her? And when the next move came, it would be a reckoning. The rain fell in sheets, slicking the streets and turning Ravello City into a reflection of chaos itself. Giovanni leaned against his black car, hood up, eyes scanning every alley. Every shadow could be Johnson. Every shadow could be trouble. His phone buzzed again, a message from an unknown number. You can't keep her safe forever. Jay. Giovanni crushed the phone in his hand. Rage surged, sharp and hot, but he forced himself to stay calm. Focus. Protect. Survive. That was the mantra. Then a faint noise, a soft cry, barely audible over the rain. His heart stopped. Maria, he whispered, sprinting toward the source. At the corner of a deserted street, a figure struggled. Weak, bloody, but moving. It was Maria. Her eyes widened when she saw him. Giovanni. He reached her in 2 strides, scooping her up. Her weight was light, but it felt like holding the world itself. Sure, I've got you, he murmured. Stay with me. Breathe. She coughed, a harsh, wet sound, and he froze, panic clawing at him. But she blinked again, forcing a shaky smile. Alive. She was alive. Then, a shadow moved behind them. Silent, fluid, deadly. Johnson. Hello, Rinaldi, he said, voice calm, almost playful. I see you two finally found each other. Giovanni spun, gun drawn, shielding Maria. Stay back. Don't. Step. Closer. Johnson raised his hand slowly, but there was a dangerous glint in his eyes. I just want to talk. She deserves to know the truth. Not now. Not like this, Giovanni snapped, tightening his grip on Maria. I don't care what the truth is. You walk away or I swear. Or you'll kill me. Johnson finished. Old habits, always the same. Maria, weak but defiant, whispered from Giovanni's arms. I want to know. I need to know. Giovanni froze, his heart hammering. She wanted to know. Even now, after everything. Johnson's gaze softened for a fleeting moment, just enough to make Giovanni's chest tighten. That's all I've ever wanted for her, he said quietly. Giovanni swallowed hard. Protecting her meant keeping her alive, yes. But could he deny her the truth? Could he deny her the right to know her own father? Rain soaked them both as tension thickened the air. Two men, bound by blood, hate, and love, stood in the storm while the girl they both cared for trembled between them. Do you want to see how this impossible choice ends? Make sure to hit like, comment your theory, and subscribe. Turn on notifications. You won't believe what happens next. Giovanni took a deep breath, eyes locked on Johnson. One step closer. And I won't just shoot to warn. I'll shoot to end this. Johnson smirked faintly. I wouldn't expect anything less from you. Maria shivered in Giovanni's arms. The storm around them mirrored in her wide, terrified eyes. But even in fear there was determination, a spark that refused to die. Giovanni whispered to her, almost to himself. Stay with me, Maria. I won't let anything touch you. Not him. Not anyone. Not this world. Johnson took a slow step back, melting into the rain and shadows, but his voice carried. This isn't over, Rinaldi. She will know the truth, whether you like it or not. Giovanni pressed Maria closer. His hand shook slightly, but his resolve hardened. The storm wasn't over. The danger wasn't over. But neither was his fight. And as the rain poured, one thing became crystal clear. Giovanni would go to hell and back to protect her. If you're ready for the next shocking twist, stay tuned. The story is about to explode, and you don't want to miss it. The morning light was weak, struggling to pierce the heavy gray clouds over Ravello City. Giovanni sat in the quiet of his apartment, Maria resting beside him on the couch. Her head was on his shoulder, fragile and trembling, but alive. He watched her sleep and felt the weight of the world pressing down. Every enemy, every secret, every lie that had led them here. And then he remembered Johnson's words. She will know the truth, whether you like it or not. The thought sent a shiver down his spine. Maria stirred, blinking up at him. Giovanni. I need to know, she whispered, voice barely audible. He tensed. Every instinct screamed to protect her from the pain, the chaos, the man who had abandoned her. But she was no longer a child. She had the right to her story, even if it shattered the world he was trying to keep safe. Not yet, he said firmly, though his voice wavered. Not until it's safe. I promise I'll tell you everything. But first I need to protect you. Her brow furrowed. But he's my father. I need to know him. Giovanni swallowed hard. Father. That word sounded foreign, dangerous. And yet, somehow true. Before he could respond, a sudden knock at the door made both of them jump. Giovanni's hand went instinctively to his gun. Who's there? He demanded. Maria. It's me, came a calm, familiar voice. Giovanni froze. His blood ran cold. Johnson. I won't hurt her, Johnson called softly, just beyond the door. I only want to talk. One chance. That's all. Giovanni's jaw tightened. Talk. He never just talks. Never. Not a chance, Giovanni growled. Step back or I swear. You'll shoot me. Johnson finished, voice almost taunting. You're predictable, Giovanni. Always the protector. Always the monster. Always the hero. Maria's hand tightened on Giovanni's arm. I want to see him, she whispered. I need to know him. Giovanni felt the floor shift beneath him. She wasn't just asking, she was demanding. And denying her wasn't protecting her. It was stealing a part of her life she had a right to claim. He exhaled slowly, making a decision that could cost him everything. Fine, he said, voice cold and final. One chance. One. But you step 1 foot wrong, and I will make sure you regret it. The door opened. Johnson stepped in, rain still dripping from his hood, eyes locked on Maria. He froze when he saw her, really saw her, and for a fleeting moment, the cruel edge in his expression softened. Maria, he said softly. She stepped forward, shaky but determined. Father, is it really you? Giovanni's hand hovered over his gun, tension so thick it could cut glass. But he stayed silent. This was her moment. Johnson knelt slowly, keeping his distance. Yes, he said. I'm your father. And I've spent every day since you were born trying to protect you from the world that made me who I am. Maria's eyes filled with tears. Why did you leave me? Why didn't you tell me? Johnson swallowed hard. Because I knew. I would only bring danger to your life. I thought I was keeping you safe by staying away. But I see now. I can't hide anymore. Giovanni's chest ached. Protect her, yes, but she had a right to the truth, even if it hurt. Even if it brought more enemies into their lives. He stepped back, letting the two of them speak, but his eyes never left Johnson. One wrong move, and it would end in blood. Want to see how Maria reacts to the truth? Hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. The next shocking twist will change everything you thought you knew. Maria reached out tentatively, brushing her hand against Johnson's. His eyes softened, and for the first time, Giovanni saw a flicker of something human. Something vulnerable in the man who had haunted his life for years. The storm outside had calmed, but inside, a new storm was just beginning. And Giovanni knew, whatever came next, nothing would ever be the same. Night had fallen again, but this time the darkness wasn't just outside, it was inside Giovanni. Every thought, every heartbeat, revolved around Maria and the man who had resurfaced into their lives. He had tried to prepare himself. Tried to anticipate Johnson's next move. But nothing, not even a lifetime in the underworld, could prepare him for the storm he felt brewing. A sudden sound made him freeze, the sharp click of a car door outside. Giovanni's hand instinctively went to his gun. Johnson. He stepped out of the shadows, calm, collected, but with an unmistakable edge of danger in his eyes. Evening, Rinaldi, he said smoothly. I thought I'd see you before I speak with her again. Giovanni's jaw clenched. This ends tonight. You try anything near her and I swear. Johnson raised a hand, mockingly surrendering. Tonight. Relax. I just want a conversation. One conversation. Giovanni's finger hovered over the trigger, every nerve screaming. One conversation too many and it won't end with words. Johnson's smile widened. You always do this. Always the protector. Always ready to fight. But tell me, Giovanni, who fights for the heart he truly loves? Or who fights because he's scared to lose it? Giovanni froze. The words. They cut deeper than bullets ever could. Maria appeared behind him, cautious but defiant. Giovanni. I can handle this, she said softly, stepping forward. I need to know the truth. Giovanni's eyes flicked between her and Johnson. He wanted to argue. He wanted to protect. But he knew he couldn't stop her from facing her own past. Johnson's gaze softened for a moment. Maria, you deserve the truth. And I'll give it to you. But you have to be ready. Maria nodded. I am. I want it all. Giovanni exhaled slowly, tension rolling off him like storm clouds breaking. He had chosen to protect her, but now he had to trust her, and control his own temper for the first time. Suddenly, a noise from the alley. A shadow moved too fast, too deliberate. Giovanni's hand snapped to his gun. Stay behind me, he ordered. The figure stepped into the light. A man with a knife. Johnson moved instinctively. Step back, Rinaldi. I've got this. Giovanni didn't wait. He acted. In a blur, the knife was disarmed, and the attacker was on the ground. But the danger wasn't gone. Others could come. Always others. If you want to see how Giovanni and Maria survive this ambush, Make sure to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You won't believe the next twist. Johnson looked at Giovanni, a flicker of respect in his eyes. Not bad, he said quietly. Giovanni didn't respond. His eyes were on Maria, watching her steady herself, her courage growing with each heartbeat. And for the first time, he realized, she wasn't just the girl he needed to protect. She was becoming a force of her own. The storm outside raged harder, wind lashing against the streets. But inside, a new storm had begun, one that would change everything for all of them. Giovanni tightened his grip on his gun, eyes never leaving the shadows. One thing was certain. No one would touch Maria. No one. Not tonight. The warehouse was dark, silent. Too silent. Giovanni's boots echoed on the concrete floor as he moved, Maria close behind him. Every sense was alert. Every shadow is a potential threat. Stay close, Giovanni whispered. No sudden moves. Maria nodded, clutching a flashlight like a weapon. Her hands trembled slightly, but her eyes burned with determination. She had survived bullets, secrets, and lies, but tonight she would face everything. A faint sound, metal scraping against metal, made Giovanni freeze. Stay behind me, he said, gun raised. From the shadows, Johnson emerged, calm, almost casual. Giovanni, always so tense. You should relax. I'm not here to fight. Not yet. Giovanni's eyes narrowed. Not a step closer, Johnson. Not one. Johnson smiled, a dangerous curve of his lips. You worry too much. She's strong. Smarter than you think. But you're predictable. Maria stepped forward, voice steady despite the fear. I don't need protection from him, she said. I need the truth. All of it. Giovanni's jaw tightened. Every instinct screamed to pull her back, to shield her. But she had made her choice. She wanted the truth. And he couldn't deny her that. Johnson's eyes softened, just enough to make Giovanni's chest tighten. Maria, you are my daughter. I left to keep you safe, to keep you alive. I made mistakes, but everything I did was for you. Before Giovanni could react, the warehouse lights flickered, and then gunfire erupted. Shadows moved. Men in masks, armed, surrounded them. Giovanni's body went into overdrive. He pushed Maria behind a crate, firing with precision, taking down 2 attackers in seconds. Johnson dove to the side, pulling Maria into cover. She's fast, isn't she? He shouted over the chaos. Giovanni didn't answer. Every second was survival. Every breath, every heartbeat counted. If you want to see how Giovanni and Maria survive this deadly ambush, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. The next twist will shock you. The last masked attacker lunged from the shadows, knife raised. Giovanni's reflexes were faster. He disarmed the man, snapping the knife in 2. Maria's eyes were wide, adrenaline surging. She looked at Giovanni, then at Johnson, then back to Giovanni. We can do this, she whispered. Giovanni exhaled slowly, heart pounding. Yes. Together. But stay close. One wrong move. And it's over. The attackers lay unconscious or fleeing. Silence fell again, heavy and suffocating. But Giovanni knew they weren't done. The storm wasn't over. Outside, the city was quiet, but inside, a new storm had begun. A storm of truth, danger, and choices that would change everything. Giovanni looked at Maria, determination burning in his eyes. We survive this. And then we face the rest. No one, and I mean no one, will ever hurt you again. Johnson stepped closer, lowering his hood, showing a rare flicker of vulnerability. She's my daughter, Giovanni. And whether you like it or not, I'm in her life now. Giovanni's eyes narrowed. We'll see about that. Don't miss the next shocking twist. Click like, subscribe, and turn on notifications because the next shocking twist will reveal secrets you won't believe. The night stretched on, shadows moving in the corners. But one thing was certain. No matter what came, Giovanni and Maria would fight. Together. And nothing, no one would break that bond. The storm outside had turned into a quiet drizzle, but inside the abandoned safehouse, the air was electric, thick with unspoken truths, danger, and the weight of the past. Giovanni paced, Maria sitting on a worn sofa, her eyes wide but resolute. Johnson leaned against the wall, calm yet predatory, watching every movement like a hawk. "You should sit," Giovanni said, voice low and dangerous. "One wrong move, and this ends badly." Johnson smiled faintly. "I like tension. Keeps life interesting. But tonight, I'm here for Maria. Not you." Maria swallowed, glancing between the two men who had shaped her life in ways she was only now beginning to understand. "I need answers," she said, voice shaking but firm. "All of them." Giovanni's hands clenched into fists, a storm of emotions raging inside him. Rage, fear, protectiveness, and something else. A begrudging acknowledgement that Johnson had a claim here, a place in her life that Giovanni couldn't erase. Johnson's eyes softened as he stepped closer. "Maria, I know I failed you. I left you to protect you from a life I thought would destroy you. But you need to know who you are. Your blood. Your heritage. Everything." Giovanni's jaw tightened. Every instinct screamed to stop him, to keep Maria safe from this dangerous man who had once abandoned her. But Maria had made her choice. She wanted the truth. "Start talking," she demanded. "Now." Johnson exhaled, tension visible in his shoulders. "Your mother," she lied. "She told you I was dead because she feared the kind of man I am, and the life I live. I couldn't risk corrupting your innocence, so I left. But now, it's time you knew." Giovanni's hand twitched near his gun, but he held himself back. He couldn't interfere, not yet. Not if Maria wanted the truth. Maria's eyes filled with tears. "Why? Why would you leave me? Why would anyone decide I wasn't safe enough to know the truth?" Johnson's voice broke slightly. "Because I loved you. Because loving you meant keeping you alive. And because the world I come from, it destroys everyone it touches." A tense silence filled the room. Maria's breath came fast, her emotions a tornado of anger, confusion, and longing. Giovanni stepped closer, protective yet respectful of her space. "She's strong," he muttered under his breath, almost to himself. "Want to see how Maria reacts to the shocking truth about her family? Hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. The next shocking twist is going to blow your mind." Maria's voice was quiet now, trembling with emotion. I don't know if I hate you or forgive you. But I need to understand. I need everything." Johnson knelt slowly, eyes meeting hers. "Then I'll tell you. Every secret, every choice, every mistake. You deserve that. And I'll do it. Even if it means standing in the eye of the storm with Giovanni looking over my shoulder." Giovanni's jaw tightened, tension coiling in his shoulders. The storm outside mirrored the storm inside. Emotions, danger, and bloodlines clashing violently. But one thing was clear. Maria was no longer a pawn. She was the center of a war she never asked for, and yet she was ready to face it. Giovanni exhaled slowly. "Whatever comes next," he said, voice steel, "we face it together. Nothing touches her. Not him. Not the world. Not anyone." Johnson nodded. Agreed, for her sake. The rain continued its steady rhythm outside, as if keeping time with the tension that had filled the room for hours. But Maria, at the center of it all, finally felt the pieces of her life, shattered, confusing, and dangerous, beginning to make sense.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazy and intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out.